in the control of content that endangers the integrity, particularly of children and young people. The report with Madeleine Garcia.
The way was open to debate and control of the contents of TikTok's vital challenges.
And the responsibility of the TikTok platform for the lack of timely control of the so-called viral challenges whose contents affect the health and lives of our children and adolescents has become evident.
For this reason, the Constitutional Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice announced for the first time decisions against a social network for the protection of children and adolescents, victims of manipulation and violence of the videos posted on the platform, creating a precedent with TikTok.
We impose on the company a fine equivalent to $10 million for not having implemented the necessary and adequate measures.
Dada su negligencia al no haber implementado las medidas necesarias y adecuadas para evitar la difusión.
To prevent the dissemination of publications whose content is elusive to the so-called viral challenges, in violation of the Venezuelan legal system.
El ordenamiento jurídico en Venezuela.
During 2024, 2 boys and a girl died when they submitted to viral challenges. These images correspond to the last goodbye of Erica, 12 years old, who lost her life when she consumed 3 pills as part of a TikTok viral challenge. Almost 800 minors put their lives at risk according to figures from the scientific police.
The Ministry of Education has a huge responsibility to study the issue, to give recommendations, to regulate the use of social networking technologies in schools, and also to educate not only our students, but also our teachers and the family in family schools.
The last case was that of a young woman with a special condition. She was set on fire live on TikTok following the viral challenge, The Whale. 70% of her body suffered first-degree burns.
I don't know what the TikTok is called, but my poor daughter couldn't defend herself.
An awareness campaign about the danger of social networks compared to a whisper that kills and traps the minds of children and adolescents, inciting them to suicide, is promoted in Venezuela. The Supreme Court of Justice also ordered TikTok to install an office in Venezuela in order to monitor and control the contents.
All this for TikTok to assume the legal responsibility of operating publicly, also establishing a fine of $10 million, which is done in relation to the victims of the families that unfortunately are in mourning as a result of these networks.
Another of the 5 decisions is that a technical round table will be created with the victims' families, and the money from the fine will be used to compensate the damages to those affected. President Nicolas Maduro had given an ultimatum to TikTok to restrict content that kills human beings. The network responded that it understood the concern, but did not act. Now we'll have 8 days to comply with the decision of the Supreme Court of Justice. If it does not do so, the highest judicial body will take action.
Madeleine Garcia, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela. Also, the Venezuelan Public Prosecutor's Office reported Monday having released 1,369 detainees who had participated in violent riots and crimes committed at the July 28th elections. The entity explained that from December 26th to the 30th, 413 petitions had been assessed to study the cases of those involved in acts of violence following the electoral process. These releases were granted under the process of respect and unrestricted observance of the principles and guarantees enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic in matters of human rights. Thus, the Public Prosecutor's Office reaffirmed its commitment to the defense of peace, justice, and the rights of Venezuelans. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro denounced that the far right promotes violence among the youth, while the Bolivarian government offers alternatives to strengthen peace. During the inauguration of the Ali Primera Extreme Skating Park, The president pointed out that thanks to these works, young people will be able to prepare themselves to represent the country in competitions at world level. The Venezuelan president also stressed his commitment to continue strengthening the development of the national parks system and to promote a green country, sports and culture, which is one of the objectives of the 7T plan. The Venezuelan leader emphasized that the greatest work of the current year has been to consolidate peace and national stability. In Mexico, every month, relatives and companions of the 43 students from Ayotzinapa who disappeared more than 10 years ago take to the streets, this time at the end of the year, to visit the Temple of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Daniel Rosas, our correspondent, with more details.
Porque vivos se los llevaron.
As they do every month, the families of the 43 disappeared from Ayotzinapa arrived in Mexico City to make a pilgrimage to the Basilica of Guadalupe.
We ask for a softening of the hearts of those people who took our children away. The pilgrimage for the students is also taking place.
Like every year end, since more than 10 years ago, when their children were disappeared, they walked to Guadalupe to ask for the favor of the indigenous Virgin.
Let us hope that we are in good health to move forward and that we can find the boys and ask the Virgin Mary to touch the hearts of these indolent authorities.
In early December, they had a meeting with Claudia Sheinbaum, already in her capacity as President of Mexico, and she committed to continue the investigation.
We have no choice but to continue the dialogue with the President, the meetings, to discuss issues that lead to the investigation, because that is our priority.
The slogans for truth and justice do not change, but they trust that their faith will give them the strength to continue their struggle.
The pain persists despite the fact that more than 10 years and 3 months have passed. The pain, the sadness, the absence of these relatives are still there. Life is not the way we want it to be.
In the Basilica, they are received with the message: do not get tired, be firm, keep searching for the truth, before participating in the Mass that they hope will grant them the favors requested to the Virgin of Guadalupe.
Daniel Rosas, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Ecuador's National Electoral Council requests to discuss the irregularity that President Daniel Noboa intends to commit by staying in office while campaigning for re-election. The request made by Councilwoman Elena Najera demanded the Council to decide over the application of the law in question, which obliged the head of state to take an unpaid leave of absence during the campaign for re-election that starts on January 5th. Noboa has failed to comply with Article 93 of the Democratic Code in order to avoid handing over the mandate to the Vice President Veronica Abad, as the Ecuadorian legal and constitutional framework require. In this context, after the Council's decision, Najera accused her colleagues of siding with the President at the expense of democratic principles.
Yes, it is important that the National Electoral Council pronounces itself by means of a resolution, so that from there the compliance or non-compliance with the norm may be derived. Having said this, I know that you come to these sessions having previously discussed that you already know what is going to happen. I already anticipated it in an interview on the radio, that in general, the only counselor that is and acts alone is me, since all of you manage yourselves through previous discussions. Even the schedules you set are already agreed upon. So because of that, the citizens tell you and are aware of who is going to manage the electoral processes. Because it cannot be that here interpretations are given based on relationships with whichever government is in power.
In this context, the National Electoral Council of Ecuador approved an almost $14 million fund for the electoral campaign. Resources will be distributed in an equitable manner for leading campaigns on press, radio, television, social media, among others. The electoral activity is scheduled for January 5th to February 6, 2025. For going to the polls with over 13 million voters are eligible to elect a new Ecuadorian head of state. The 151 members of the National Assembly and 5 representatives to Parliament will be elected as well. The South Pacific countries are the first regions worldwide to bid farewell to the year 2024 and welcome the year 2025. Kiribati was the first country to celebrate the arrival of the new year 2025 with fireworks and festivities. The city of Auckland in New Zealand joined this worldwide celebration with thousands of people and the traditional countdown and colorful fireworks launched from the country's tallest structure, the Sky Tower. Likewise, other regions such as Samoa, Tonga, Chatham Islands, Fiji, and Australia celebrated with their families the traditional arrival of the new year.